Okay, you guys, as promised, today I'm making beef bourguignon. The dog has been walked and bathed. The kids have cleaned the family room in their rooms, and they have now been rewarded with some screen time. So I'm going to kind of bang this out here. The idea of a beef stew, like a beef bourguignon or a carbonade, is that you can it's all upfront work, and then you kind of let it cook for a few hours. I have already started without you, and have a chuck roast in here that I have cut up into pieces about an inch and a half, about like that. You have to sear it on every side, and I'm searing it in bacon grease. I did make bacon this morning, so I kept some out, but you should keep it in the fridge usually, because these little brown specks in here will go rancid, so you should keep it in the fridge. But it's bacon grease and olive oil. And before you put the beef in the pan, you need to dredge it in some flour, just regular flour today. And that flour is what is going to make the liquid in the stew more like a gravy. If it doesn't get as thick as you want, you can always add a beurre meunier, but you shouldn't have to if there's enough flour on your meat. Now, you have to do it in batches usually, and that's one of the reasons I started ahead with the chuck roast. And these are all nicely browned now, so I'm going to take them out. And I'm going to cut up my second piece of meat, which is a tenderloin chain. And it's sort of like a long piece of meat here. When you buy a whole tenderloin, which I do sometimes, to carve it up for steaks or for the Chateaubriand, which is the middle part, there's this part on top that's kind of fatty, and it's not really part of the tenderloin per se, that doesn't really have an obvious use. And so sometimes if I have one sitting around, as I did this week, I'll use it for that, for something like this. So I'm just going to put these in some flour. These pieces, which again are about an inch and a half, 2 inches, and covered in flour now, and they'll go into the pan. And I'm using this partly because just to get rid of it, but also because I got kind of a small chuck roast, and it was just 2 pounds, and I like to usually do about 3. So while those are browning, I'm going to talk about our spices and our liquids and our veg. I didn't have mushrooms, but I do have dried mushrooms, and so I put some boiling water over them. I keep some in the pantry, and those are reconstituting in hot water. And a lot of times what I do, if I don't have beef stock, is I'll use like the Better Than bouillon or whatever, and I make that broth together. Like I'll put the paste in with a lot more water than this, and the mushrooms, and then I'll start adding the spices to that, and then just all pour it in at the same time. But today I wanted to show you which spices I use, and how that kind of all comes together instead of starting like this. The other liquid is either beer or wine. Today we're going to use wine because, again, I had wine to get rid of. I cannot seem to finish a bottle of wine, especially red, and it just sort of, otherwise, what do you do with it? Because it doesn't really keep very well, does it? I mean, you can put it in like a vinegar bottle to keep a vinegar bottle going, but we're going to use it for this. If you want to do more like a Belgian beef stew, that is, you would use a couple bottles of dark beer, like Guinness or, an actual Belgian dark beer. So you just think about the math on that. It's 2 bottles of beer, 12 ounces, 24 ounces, divided by 8, because there are 8 ounces in a cup, is 3 cups. So you want 3 cups of wine for this application as well. And we're going to do that right after the beef. Or no, actually first we're going to do our onions. So the onions, this is another decision point. There are a lot of ways that you can massage this recipe to be whatever you have around. And as I said, we had a snow day yesterday and Thursday and probably Monday. So I'm not getting to the grocery store until Tuesday at best. So with the onions, if you chop them really finely, they'll disappear into the stew and they'll make, part of the gravy. If you want them intact, you cut them what is called pole to pole in strips, and they'll hold their integrity a little bit better. I am probably going to do it pole to pole because it's a little faster. And I probably should have done this in advance, but we can sit here and follow along. The other thing that I am using for veg is those bagged baby carrots, partly because they are cut in the right size and peeled already, but partly also because someone, me, opened up a bag making school lunches and left them open, and now they're all white and nobody wants to eat them. So we're going to use them in our stew, where they will be the right size exactly to cook. And you want your vegetables pretty big, again, because you're going to cook them for a long time, and they need to be hold their shape, right? The other thing I have here, which I don't always use, but I had some of because I was feeling a little homesick for Scotland and tatties and neeps, is I had some turnips. And you can see I did keep one in case, but this one's starting to grow, and that's why we want to use it. A root vegetable, like its biological purpose, is to make this part grow and provide the sugar for it, right? Its culinary purposes, we want to keep the sugar inside. So once it starts growing, it's done for you. You got to use it. So our onion, I'm just going to quickly finish slicing that. So we've got onions, we've got carrots, we've got turnips. Oh, hi, India. Yes, you can have a snack. Nobody eats their meals, they just want snacks. So now all the beef is good and seared. And I'm going to add these onions in here because onions really do better if they are sauteed a little bit in fat too. And we are going to want to add a little salt. You guys are up on the salt thing. This is French sea salt, gray salt. I used to buy this at the LeBeau market at Clay and Leavenworth, and I got this one at Home Goods and Tyson. So, the Lord provides. And this is an Old Navy spoon. Keep things, use them again. So we don't, at this point, use any pepper, because I'm going to put whole peppercorns in here. We do want to add the salt to the onions because that is going to make them exude their liquid. It's the same reason that a slug dies when you put salt on it. It changes the concentration gradient across the membrane. Anyway, so we're going to do that. They're going to take a minute, and while that is happening, we can talk about spices. These are, I could just get the bag open. These are Balinese long peppers, which I'm just using because I have them. And it's the same, it's a peppercorn. It's just a long one. And I'm going to use a couple of these. And I'm just going to throw these in my mushrooms like usual just to kind of get through it. But if you're using regular peppercorns, just use like, about 10. And then I've got some green peppercorns I'm going to throw in here. Again, about a dozen. I have some juniper berries, which are really nice. Just little things. a good maybe tablespoon of those. And again, you don't have to use all this stuff. It's just, this is the stuff that I have around and I am using. I really like this stuff, French 4-spice, which is white pepper and cloves and nutmeg and ginger. And it just adds a really nice kind of roundness to it. And here we are in the dead of winter. We do not have fresh herbs, not very well. I do have some thyme, and I'm going to throw that in whole in a minute. But I'm going to put this marjoram that's dried in the water to help get it started. A little ground savory, a little ground rosemary, and 4 or 5 or 6 whole cloves, you know, these guys, and a tiny little bit of allspice, and of course bay leaves. We got to do a good, these are little ones, I'll probably do about 3 of those. And here I am in this great tragic moment where I don't have any fresh garlic, but I do have that kind, which, you know, it'll do in a pinch. But otherwise I'd put like a good 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, and you just smash them with your knife and throw them in whole. Another thing we want to use is tomato paste. We're going to wait a minute on that because I'm going to put it in with the wine. And the acid is going to help take all the brown stuff off the bottom of your pot. And I think that does it for this part. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to, now again, we had 3 half-empty bottles of wine. Let's see where we get with this. We want 3 cups of wine. That's 2. So I'm just going to bring up the level with some port, because it's always around, and it's okay if it's already open. That's good. Maybe a little more. And we're just going to pour this in, and the acid in the wine is going to clear off all that brown stuff on the bottom of your pot, which I would show you if I had a second camera, but I don't. So we're going to scrape up all that stuff. I have this really nice spoon. I got it at Williams-Sonoma. It's like, it's a wooden spoon, but it's flat on the end, and so it's good for scraping. So I've got that. I've got my trusty pie plate again here today. I'm just going to put this over here. And a good tablespoon of tomato paste. If all you have is a can, for heaven's sake, don't put the whole can in. Just do like a tablespoon and then figure out another use for it, because otherwise it's going to taste like spaghetti sauce. And I also have these caramelized shallots, which kind of add a nice flavor. They're from Williams-Sonoma. They came from the Williams-Sonoma outlet, and which is a great place to find stuff like this, except you really need to check the dates. They're not always up to date on those things. And so this is when we just start dumping things in, and I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven. Now I'm doing this in a Dutch oven because it's 2 o'clock and I want it to be done by dinner. If you want to do it in a slow cooker, you can, and it's just, you cook it on high for like 6 or 7 hours, or 5 or 6. In this way, you put it in the oven at 300 for about 2.5, 3 hours, and you know, it's either or. This is just what I'm doing today because this is when I started. We were washing the dog. Okay, I'm going to put my turnips and my carrots in, and I'm going to put this slurry of herbs and dried mushrooms in. And what else do we have here? Oh, thyme. You just throw it in whole, and the leaves will fall off the stems. And You can just pull out the stick at the end. And I actually too have, I have some bacon here left over from breakfast that I'm probably going to chop up and put in here. It's about 4 slices. I cook my bacon in half because it's easier to flip that way and easier to fit in the pan. So I'm just going to kind of chop that up and throw that in, and then put our meat in. Oh, and the beef stock. I forgot about the beef stock. Now that looks like a lot of liquid. You're supposed to put in a quart. But because I did a cup, or no, I did 2 cups with the mushrooms. Remember, a quart is 4 cups, 32 ounces. So I'm just gonna do 2 cups of beef stock because I've already got, maybe a little more, because I've already got 2 cups of mushroom stock in there and 3 cups of booze, and then that's it. We are finished. Dinner will be ready in 2.5 hours, or maybe 3, and you know, bon appetit. I'm glad you could join me for my 16 minutes of beef bourguignon, which will be done really more in like 3 hours. Bye.